the hand.
As always, it is a great delight to be able to connect to all of you for this important broadcast, which is centering on Hamlet, Hamlet by William Shakespeare. All our students who are doing MEG, MEG2 in British drama, we cover this text, and at the various stages of graduation, and like if our if our audience if other than what our students read are connected, you must have come across this text at many levels during study days, and then in a referential way also, where you find that there is often a reference to say Hamlet's soliloquies, to be or not to be, the complex characterization of Hamlet, the storyline. And these days there are often references about Hamlet being picturized and nativized and used for Indian films also. Like recently there was a film Heather, through which the Indian context was explored. Today's session is fundamentally rooted in the modern day critical approaches which are significant to the understanding of this play. I may begin with this to all our audience, that if we look at in a comparative sense, we'll find that in the 20th century, in the later half of the 20th century and early 21st century, there's a big shift. You may call it a paradigm shift as far as understanding of the play and the characterization and narrativization themes of this Shakespearean masterpiece is concerned. Otherwise, like if you go before that, before 1950s, you find that the opinion, the critical opinion used to be largely like similar. Like if you look at people like A.C. Bradley, who talk about Shakespearean tragedy, and then if you look at Ben Jonson, who would who would call that Shakespeare was not for any age, but he was for all times. So people would before 1950s, if I may kind of build upon today's lecture, before that people used to hold Shakespeare in greater awe, as if he's carrying a divine halo. And you find that he's as if he's holding a mirror to the entire human sensitivity and sensibility. But then you find that in the second half, excuse me, in the second half you find that there is a sense of engagement and negotiation with Shakespeare, in which there is a kind of opinion that perhaps it is very difficult to universalize a character. One character may have a particular understanding, a particular standpoint in one given situation, but it is very difficult to kind of extrapolate that to different situations. So yes, like if you look at it, late 20th century and early 21st century, there's a shift, and I'm not trying to say that what A.C. Bradley, Ben Jonson, and our traditional conventional critics of Shakespeare were in some way, off the route. I'm not saying that, but what we find, or like there may be newer understanding. The present understanding. For example, if you look at the feminists, the Marxists, like post-structuralist understanding. You have many other ways of looking at Shakespeare, and particularly this play that we will be discussing. So this is important. If I may take you to the today's where we look, how do we deal with Shakespeare in 21st century in 21st century literary criticism. That is important. So I'm arguing that the literary criticism has developed in complex ways, and like beginning with René Vallec's study, like in which he talked about symbolism, delved into academic critics. There is a reference to Bloomsbury Group, New Romantics, and you find that newer and newer people like in which Ezra Pound and Lewis and T.S. Eliot, I.A. Richards, F.R. Lewis. So this is important that we look at how how do we look at literature. That is important. Like I must kind of hold your attention at this point. Like what is what is the purpose of kind of looking at literature, studying literature. Purpose of literature is again to understand the movement of times, to understand the various layers and perspectives, dimensions of the times, how a person reacts to that. If you look at Aristotle called literature related to mimesis, a sense of imitation, copying, perhaps but now you in 21st century, 20th century criticism, modern day criticism is more complex, where you find that one particular narrative is viewed from different standpoints, and the whole seemingly simple plot is problematized, and kind of sometimes in a way the meaning kind of undergoes a very major shift. So that is important. So I'm saying that in the context of Shakespearean studies, there's an island of uncertainty. There is a how do you look at like T.S. Eliot, for example, calls Hamlet in a way a dramatic failure. On the one hand, you have Bradley and you have Jonson and other like Longfellow, like all these people, talking about this narrative as the most, as a big, event in English dramatic history. But like then, T.S. Eliot comes and he's saying that perhaps the dramatist is trying too much through this character, and you find that there's a kind of opinion that the social, individual, psychological, and moral, all those layers are too intricately and too, in a way, it's over mix of all those emotions. So but it's not that what Eliot says is far more meaningful than what others are saying. But we can always put that in a sense of comparison and contrast. This is important. Like when we say what is an author's existence, if you look at the entity of literature and author's existence, the existence of an author was always taken for granted, and extensive scholarship developed to identify unknown authors. like, you'll not problematize, what is the author's, take in that, what is his role, what is, his take, But today, when we stand in 21st century, we would look at Shakespeare as a representative of the erstwhile colonial colossal power, and we may look at him as somebody like, who's trying to perpetuate an idea of colonial hues and colors, So that is something like earlier there was a more or less like, a simplistic understanding that the author comes and author writes and delivers, But these days we are looking like, can language be just a medium? Can we, can we look at language just like a medium? That is a question. I mean, earlier, like, we used to feel that any work of art is portrayed, through words. But in later half of 20th century, and now we don't treat words as just words, as not as carriers of just wisdom, but as something very, very, in a way, as words as political, as words as in a way, value loaded, essence, So like, I think like when like, we read this play, when we read Hamlet and his ideas, and we look at the symbolism, the words which are being used, we find that the modern day criticism is much more, what words are being used by men, male characters, what words are used by female characters, noble characters, and like, in a way, not so noble characters. In that sense, we'll look at how modern literary theory has, in a way, like what paradigms can we adopt, what major shifts we can, structuralism, for example. Structuralism is like where it has come and challenged traditional views by emphasizing that literature is born out of language, not life, and focused on understanding the system rather than individual manifestation. This is crucial to understand that how, that idea that I was trying to discuss, like words are not life, they emerge out of life. They, we create words and not like the other way around. So we can always be a little more strategic, analytical, and critical about the words that we approach in this feminist approach that we has come up, like where they questioned the male evaluation of literature and sought to redefine women's identity, leading to alternative readings of literary texts. Likewise, if you look at in Hamlet, if you look at the character of Hamlet, you look at the character of Claudius and other male characters vis-a-vis Gertrude, vis-a-vis other like, you have Ophelia, you have other female characters. How do they get portrayed? What is the space assigned to them? What kind of strengths is invested in the character? That is important. Marxist approach is something that can be also used, in which like Marx came and talked about how factors of production and cultural hegemony takes a center stage, is important as far as meaning, the production of meaning is concerned. I'll I'll make a case for for psychoanalytical criticism. Like Hamlet is like what we used to understand of Hamlet before 1950 is completely different because of psychoanalytical criticism. What Freud said, what in terms of consciousness and subconsciousness, and what he talked about, that what we speak is important, but what we don't speak, or what we just keep in our mind is is sometimes equally important or perhaps more important. So that is that application to literature is important, where a kind of disconnected structures and multiple interpretation of work are intertwined, are used simultaneously. And you will find that when we look at like post-colonial discourse, in which Hamlet as a symbol of colonial imperial hegemony, and and interpretations of different cultural contexts are used, are explored. This is important. Like when we look at how in the post-colonial context, when we read Hamlet, we find that in a way, the reference, the subject-object relationship, or the master-slave relationship, or the whole combination of like language and then gender and then the psychoanalytical, all these factors combine in a very complex way, and we find that yes, this is crucial. If you look at the idea of psychoanalysis, in which we earlier we found that it is just like a sense of indecision, sense of he's procrastinating all the time. But when you see it through the lens of psychoanalysis, we find that the sense of delay, the sense of procrastination that we see in the mind of Hamlet, in the act of taking revenge from his uncle Claudius, like when he and he delays, you find that yes, that idea is something in which like there is this what Sigmund Freud and other psychoanalysts they have talked about. He developed a kind of that Oedipus complex, in which like there is a certain kind of attachment with the mother, which in a way prevents him from taking a very prompt and ready kind of action. So that is something that we can always think about. I'm like saying that when we are looking at all these modern day critical approaches, it is important that we take into account, like when we look at through all the acts and scenes of the play, we employ a critical perspective, where we put all these not to unnecessarily kind of shift the attention, shift the main focus. Sometimes like if earlier what we used to experience, that if there was a slightly like oppositional and kind of like a disjointed kind of component was found, critics used to kind of overlook that. Critics used to avoid that and come to a more harmonious, holistic and rounded kind of understanding of that. But today, like we look at it and we try to in a way look at its context and somehow develop an idea, and if not an idea, a theory out of it. So when we look at it, we our job is to look at what say in a like from a 360-degree view, if we can combine these ideas, like the post-structuralists, the feminists, the Marxists, the psychoanalysts, all these ideas, if we can club these together and see Hamlet in a far more like complex shape, that would be in a way that will be more meaningful. If you look at like feminist criticism, we find that how we can reinterpret characters. No, do we find that both like say Hamlet and Ophelia, and like in the context of like even Gertrude, like do you think that both of them have been given the same kind of choice, the same kind of options and alternatives, and like the voice and the kind of the agency that we often talk about? That is something important, and we need to kind of factor that in, and like if we happen to employ the the idea of repression, the idea of a patriarchal domination and female subjugation, that is something that we can probe little deeper into this, and we'll find that yes, there is how we can examine literary texts and expose the repression, the silence, and the denial of identity to women in this. Like we can always Gertrude in Hamlet like presents the alternative readings of the play. We find that like if we you will often like come to experience the point that as if like Hamlet occupies the central space, and as if he has to take the revenge, though Gertrude was at the center, and she was someone like like the mother, and her husband dies, and then she has to be in a way more active. But you can always like understand it as if like she has been denied of her usual or her kind of natural activity based role, and like she remains passive most of the time, as if someone else will come and make her do something. Likewise, like you have beloved of Hamlet, like who also like always listen to the dictates. Of course, it may be the social setup or the social situation of that time, in which a particular kind of social role and social situation was assigned to women. But then again, you find that these characters looked far more inactive and sometimes, if I may use the word, powerless also. So yes, I mean that criticism may, feministic standpoint may also be adopted to understand and the perspective here. So like if you look at like once we have looked at the various aspects which have come up, we may like can we look at like through the Marxist agency, like this play where you have like Marxism criticism is fundamentally rooted in the idea of bourgeoisie and proletariat, the in an industrial setup, the production, like people who control the production, and then who are there at the in the labor section. So like how class struggle becomes the point of discussion, and how a focus is there on class struggle and social historical figures shaping literary thought and responding to literature from the standpoint of Marxist ideas. So I'm arguing that yes, when we look at it, like do we have in terms of like I mean, who has the power, who has the control, domination to assign a particular meaning to a given situation. So I mean, you'll find that in this play, for if you look at the character of Claudius and then Hamlet, and then there are lesser characters or minor characters, you will find that yes, you seem to experience that there is an interplay of those forces also, and which can be understood and experienced. So if I may say, like through these, like we have to deconstruct, we have to kind of decode all those perspectives, and like through the whole storyline, we don't like just follow the story, but we discover, we understand, and we kind of internalize the storiness of the story, how the factors of the end day England, the like the role of noble class, and the engagement, like the gender question, and then the class question, and then like how those factors come, and kind of there is a crisscross and a kind of clash of opinions and forces, and then there's a new meaning emerges. If you look at it from the, like if you look at deconstruction, for example, like which is like kind of complete lens, complete perspective in which we look at where like not like self-evident truths earlier, which used to be understood as something taken for granted. But now we examine and question the self-evident truths, and registers its distrust of imposing coherent pattern upon chaotic phenomena. This is important, like when we take into account the storyline, we just find that this is perhaps a murder has taken place, and the son has to the son has to seek revenge, and then you have some a sense of ambiguity, a sense of lack of clarity in the character's mind, and that get delayed, and it is the idea of indecision in the mind of the character Hamlet, which leads to the crisis, which leads to his killing. But then, if you look at through the kind of questioning of self-evident truths, you find that no, it is not like that. It is basically like maybe it is because of the Oedipus complex, the kind of over attachment between the mother and son, or son and the mother, and then mother, like if you look at it from the feminist lens, you find that mother may be like having own aspirations, and like on the other hand, like if you look at it from the Claudius perspective, where he has to occupy the seat of power, and then he has to because like as a as a king, you will always wait for your if your elder brother gets killed or disappears, then it is your opportunity. And then feminism, Marxism, and then you have psychoanalysis, where deeper layer of your mind, and then you find that there are in this play about 7 soliloquies are used, and the internal mind of Hamlet gets revealed at many occasions. So we find that yes, we need to employ far more reason, far more like kind of kind of total sequence of these modern day critical approaches to be able to arrive at an opinion. Of course, we are not trying to kind of we are not trying to say one most like kind of like we I'm not saying that we will allow one particular dominant critical approach to occupy the main space, but we have to somehow, we have to in a harmonious, in a well balanced manner, if we can hold that argument together till the very end, and if we can interpret all the layers and threads of the play come together and weave coherent structure, coherent kind of point of view in that. That is important. So yes, I'll try to kind of wind it up in the sense that yes, what we used to understand of Shakespeare before 1950s is now different, and now we have critical approaches available such as post-structuralism, Marxism, feminism, psychoanalysis, and then deconstruction, which are very much enabling as far as our understanding, our negotiation, and our act of analyzing the impact of literature is concerned. I wish you all the success in your efforts when you deal with this play, when you read this play, and try to come to terms with not just one meaning but meanings of this play. We'll stop here and we'll connect to more discussions on this at a later stage. Thank you very much for your presence and your attention. Thank you very much.